What did a crush do that made you immediately lose interest? Ask me to be their wingman because they had a crush on my best friend. She told me her future plans to essentially become a gold digger like her mother. When I laughed it off, she couldn't see what I thought was so funny. A woman I was talking to was recently divorced and had moved back in with her parents. She already had a child and a couple pets and was talking about getting another pet, and her parents told her no. She chose to go ahead and get another pet anyhow, and basically her parents began pushing her out the door. And it was a stressful situation for her, and I suggested she talk to her folks. However, once she told me she was grown and made her own decisions and did not care about their rules, I suddenly understood and quickly lost interest. Played hard to get. No thanks. If you're gonna ghost me for days at a time and then get pissed off when I don't respond in 0.5 seconds, then that's not my problem. Cute girl in 9th grade. There was a party over at her house. Out in the country. Had a big Olay crush on her. So she says they raise chinchillas. Okay, everyone wants to see the fuzzy critters. There were about 100 of them. The ammonia smell was unreal. So there's a platform with battery cables on it. And I asked what that was for. She said, here, I'll show you. Have some ready to go anyway. She grabbed a little fuzzy critter, clamped the cables on it and threw the switch. Without missing a beat, killed that critter. It was bizarre that a teenage girl could electrocute an animal that easily. No more crush. I was actually afraid of her a little after that. It kind of sucked the life out of the party, to say the least. He would steal people's tips off the bar counter when we were at a bar together with friends. Then he would offer to buy me food with it. No thank you. Gave me a 5-minute lecture on conditions where cheating is okay. She generalized everyone. She was also such a bitch to everyone that she didn't understand. He plays video games? Well, when do you think he'll move out of his mother's basement? Wow, she wears so much makeup, can you imagine what she's hiding under that face? Just such a mean-spirited person, and it completely turned me off. He would ask me questions about myself, then cut me off in the middle of my answer to talk about himself. He talked about how he wanted to loosen up some boring family at a wedding reception, so he spiked their drinks with party drugs. Got so drunk at a party that she hit herself. The smell is really what did it. Called another clearly beautiful girl ugly behind her back. For context, him 6'4", built dude, me 5'0", non-built lady. We were hanging out at his house when he also jokingly blocked my way when it was time for me to go and wouldn't let me pass. I asked him to let me by, and he wouldn't. I told him I was uncomfortable and he called me a crazy itch. That was the end of that for me. I was casually dating a 19-year-old guy when I was 18. He seemed totally normal until I met him at his house before a date and his mom asked him to take the garbage out before we left. He threw a fit that would embarrass most 3-year-olds, including crying, yelling at his mom, and punching the floor. I pretended that my parents were calling and needed me to come home, blocked his number, and never saw him again. I had a harmless crush on a married friend that I did not signal or act on, ever. I've been the spurned wife before. I kept my distance and did everything short of unfriending him on Facebook. He slid on into my DMs right after my separation became public knowledge and he found out I was no longer married. He was still married to his wife, with a baby on the way. I didn't respond. They are divorced now. She's a really lovely person and deserves so much better. Shat on a stage in Loret in Spain. Poured lemonade on my head in the middle of a fireworks show. She thought it was flirty and cute. Bragged about how she was leading on a few guys so she always had a backup. I ran into an old crush a few years back who told me he was into dog baiting. The candle had blown out a long time ago as far as my crush was concerned, but that pretty much killed any intention I had of trying to restart our friendship. 2 days after our first date, she showed up at my work with a pan of homemade lasagna, an ice cream making machine for my kids and all kinds of groceries. I was a single dad at the time and I guess it was some sort of care package for me. I also work about 2 hours from where she lives. When I said she didn't have to do that, she started to cry. Bit of a red flag. Guy was academic, hygienic, and sweet. Treated waitstaff appropriately. Spoke formally but still funny. Shared things in common. Me. Perfect gentleman. Date ended 10/10. While driving me home. At a stoplight. Pointed to a homeless man crossing the street. Said I would stop my car for anybody crossing the street. Just not homeless men. Where do they have to be? Fear in no hurry. Me thinking. Okay. Unsolicited and kinda odd. He added another comment. It'd be funny if I run him over. Me. Ghosted him like right after he dropped me off. I had a crush on a guy in high school who was a little bit of a rebel. Nothing serious but definitely had a bad boy thing going on. One day in class the teacher told him to do something minor and he flipped out. Basically had a temper tantrum and refused. Totally killed all interest by being an asshole for no reason. Said, why do you hang out with that N anyway? Hard R. OG I don't know. Maybe cause he's been my best friend since 2nd grade and always has my back. That was enough for me to realize she's ugly. Went on a date with them and they didn't ask me anything about myself. It was completely one-sided, like a job interview or something. I'm a guy, by the way. I've told this story before, but when I was about 8 years old we took a field trip to the Field Museum here in Chicago. During our lunch break I decided to wander off to the gift shop and see what they had. I had a huge crush on this girl named Victoria in my class and I saw this ladybug ring for a couple of dollars. I knew she liked ladybugs and I had money my parents gave me to buy something at the shop. So I decided to buy the ring and give it to her. I was really nervous and kept waiting for the right time to do it. I eventually decided to just go for it and walked up to her near the end of the trip. She was with some of her friends which made me more nervous. But I found the courage to do it. She looked at the ring and laughed. Her friends joined her and she then tossed the ring in the trash. I was completely devastated and tried hard to hold back my tears. Even though I'm over it now. That completely ducked my confidence with girls for a long time. Looking back, I may have embarrassed her too giving it to her in front of her friends. Which is why she reacted that way. But whatever the case, it's probably the most embarrassed I have been in my life and it definitely made me lose interest in her. I went on 2 dates with a girl when I was in college. She was wonderful but immediately wanted to be official and started drafting Instagram posts about us. She wanted to spend every day together and have sleepovers every night. It was so out of nowhere and we literally knew nothing about one another. I tried to look past it but she asked me to be her first and I got uncomfortable. She seemed naive and I didn't want to take advantage. I suggested we take things slow and she took offense. I cut things off and her reaction was super childish. All of this in a 3-week period. Sweet girl but the pacing was off. Co-worker at work had just a beautiful energy. Absolutely lovely to be around. Always smiling at everyone. And she would laugh at my jokes. And she made some comments from time to time that made me feel validated and understood, which was very flattering, like she guessed my passions in life and told them to me. With a big smile while looking me in the eyes. And I'm a reserved guy who doesn't share that stuff. All just very lovely. One day we're in the break room and she's talking to another guy the same way and I'm consciously talking myself out of being jealous. You're not dating or anything, you don't even have her cell phone number. She's allowed to be lovely with other people now, come on, no reason to be jealous. And when the guy leaves she turns to the girl next to her and says, God, I hate that guy. And I had just been jealous that she was treating him exactly like she treats me. I still feel foolish when I think about it. Like, does she like me or hate me? He was making fun of a disabled woman. Instantly not interested. He wouldn't talk to me in person for some reason. My family is Jewish, and my grandfather survived the Holocaust. On the second date he told me he was a neo-Nazi, or at least on the path to becoming one. When I told him I was Jewish, and also politically very left, he told me that he wanted to ossaduk the commie out of me. Never spoke again. Started dating a buddy who had the courage to ask her out first. Bro code. Also, this was high school, and those crazy kids made it. 12 years later they're still together and married. Back in college I was seeing a girl casually. Whenever we'd text, she'd take hours to respond to any message. It wasn't a big deal, since most of the time it was just chatting or setting plans for the following weekend or something. It was a little annoying because it'd take a full day or two to set up plans because of the slow responses. But whatever. I'm a bad texter, so I can't really judge someone for that. But I started to notice that when we hung out together, she'd immediately respond back to any and every text she got. She had some loud song as the ringtone that played for like 15 seconds and set it so that her camera LED would flash constantly while it rang. Totally obnoxious and made me really notice how often she texted. I casually asked her who she was texting one time and it was just some friend from school that had sent her a meme. After that I realized it wasn't going to work. Being a slow texter is fine. Constantly texting while hanging out was annoying, but not a deal breaker, especially if we were just chilling at one of our houses. But the realization that this person who was glued to her phone but didn't feel like it was a priority to respond back to my texts made me feel unimportant, so I kinda just drifted away. We stayed friends because we shared the same group of friends and it wasn't awkward or anything. I just stopped trying to do things with just the two of us. Was pretty rude to and consistently teased his roommate's dog. Just be nice to animals. Not that hard. Crush comes to my house. I explain how I'm slowly remodeling it and my plans for my house. She then starts telling me I shouldn't and I should do it her way and let her take it over and let her design, decorate, and do it all. The hell I will. I have a few. Had no sense of humor. Was really attractive but opened his mouth and was a moron. Treated wait staff badly. Met a woman. Thought she seemed cool. We went out to eat. She's telling me about how she fell on financial hard times and moved back in with her parents. The way she described it just sounded like she got in lucky. Not that she did anything irresponsible. It happens. When the bill came I told her I'd pay. She said, "Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm trying to save my money right now." Me, "Sure, understand. You want to get your own place again?" Her, "No. Actually I mean I'm trying to save up $500 for a tattoo I want to get. I've got nothing against spending money on tattoos. But when you've just spent a first date talking about the financial troubles you have, maybe now's the time to start putting money away for necessities, not tattoos." He snapped his fingers at a waitress. Then as I looked mortified, he whistled. Met a cute guy and we started talking to develop a friendship and maybe then a relationship. A gay couple, both my friends, was walking near enough for us to see them. He turns to me with a disgusted face and says, "Look at those nasty FGS, they'll burn in hell." That was the last time I spoke to him. We would be great in person. Both of us would have a laugh and genuinely had an amazing connection. But trying to get a text back takes days. It's really difficult to arrange to spend more time together when she barely replies to me. I massively lost interest after this. He was a complete racist and told me he tried to kill himself the night before because he would rather die than be crushed on by a monkey. This was in 4th grade and I was shattered. It personality. Doesn't matter how hot you are. If all you have are looks, people will notice once you get any one-on-one time with them. He started fingering me while we made out, then reached into his drawer, pulled out lube and squirted it all over my nether region and my panties, which were still on. Then proceeds to grab my throat and kiss me before he leans over and takes a sip of water out of his water bottle, only to then spit it onto the lube EV mess. A grown-ass man spat onto my V. I thought that only happened in porn. That's a no from me, dog. Said she would turn up on a date, then flaked. Told me she had been called into work urgently. I said okay, that's cool. Second time she flaked again, said that she had to tutor someone, which made no sense because would you not have that planned? The most beautiful girl at my high school was friends with me. She invited me to her house one day and when we were at her house she became the angriest, meanest person in the duckin' world and was straight up awful to her little sister. I'm talking like 11-12 years old. She was verbally abusing the it out of her sister. After that I started seeing her as kind of ugly and she was like legit beautiful. Not just the most attractive person at your school, I mean Gina Gershon beautiful, not beautiful. Back in college, I went on a date with this girl who checked off all the boxes pretty much. Cute, funny, smart, cool, should be a nice date. She wanted Mexican. Cool, I like Tex-Mex too. I order enchiladas. She orders a taco salad. Hold everything except the ground beef. She then spent the next 15 minutes shoveling spoonful after spoonful of straight ground beef into her mouth, and I was like, yeah, no, we clearly have different food preferences. I rarely have crushes, but once, this girl I had a crush on in my class. We went to a bar restaurant near our school with other classmates. Not only she was haughty with everyone, she kept giving death galas and talking in an inappropriate manner about the female waitress. I just lost interest after that night. Started to like me back. She said she was a flat earther. We were eating dinner out and he was rude to the server. Told him we were pretty close friends. It would be nice to add a please or thank you. He said, why should I? She's a waitress, implying he feels superior and I pay her to do her job. Instant turn off and didn't really want to hang out with him even as friends after the incident. She would always act stupid around me when I knew she wasn't. She liked me too, but I couldn't date a person that acted like that and she thought it was cute. She would eat butter, as in, grab a few sticks of butter and a small bowl of powdered sugar to dip it in. She'd eat it like Fun Dip. Kept comparing me to her druggy ex-husband who beat her, stole her money, but you know, he was a good guy. Women don't have any business serving in the military, unless they all agree they're only allowed here for their looks and their puss. The wonders of serving in the military. Makes you feel so well protected knowing douches like that are supposed to have your six. It was overheard and instantly made him go from cute dude in the base food court to not even worth a glance. I don't think this counts as immediately losing interest, for I actually needed some time to notice there were red flags all over the place. Guy and I met in college, shared hobbies and tastes in music and movies. During this particular instance, when we had just started hanging out with each other's group of friends, I briefly mentioned in front of him and a couple of mutual friends that I had googled this band he liked and listened to some of their songs. He dead said that it was lame that I was trying to act like him. Skip to a few months later, he asked me out, took me on a date with his mom, called that same night to tell me we were going too fast and that we needed to take things slowly. 2 days later, said he needed time to think things through because he didn't want to hurt me. Found out the next day he had been dating another girl the whole time. Ghosted him for a solid 3 days before he convinced me to talk things out. He said, quote unquote, that I was the girl he was destined to marry, but he needed some experience first so that he wouldn't duck things up with me. I was crushing on this girl from afar for a while. We were on the same military training base. One day my friend Drew and I were eating lunch and the place was nearly full. It just so happened that she had come to lunch at the same time, and she and her friend ended up sitting next to us. Drew knew the score and gave me an excited good luck buddy look. I was just about to introduce myself. My mouth was open and the words were about to come out, when she started talking to her friend. Her voice sounded like a high-pitched Roseanne bar. I closed my mouth and turned to give Drew and I think we're done here look, but he was too busy silently laughing at me to notice. She tried to hook up with one of the members of Air Supply.